Hi and welcome back. In this video, I wanted to move that abstract class into our other code just to give you another example of where this can be useful. Going over to our savable.py, remember that it's got this save method that calls a toDict method, but the savable class doesn't have that method defined. However, it relies on a subclass like admin to implement the toDict method. Relying on the subclass to implement the toDict method is okay, but it's even better if you can force the subclass to implement the method. And now that you have ABCs and abstract methods, you can. So let's go ahead and implement this using an ABC. So from ABC, import ABC meta and abstract method. And now we can define the toDict method using this abstract method. We can say toDict and then just pass it, which means it doesn't do anything. Now, this is happy because it says, okay, I can see that there is a toDict method defined, but it doesn't actually do anything in this class. It only does things in the toDict. So the whole purpose of the abstract method is to force the subclass to implement the method that it needs. Again, the fact that we have this savable class now means that admin is an instance of savable. And that can be quite good if you want then a list of savable things. You can then call save on each of them, even if they are not all admin objects. If we cut the savable from here, and we put it into user.py, now user becomes savable, and admin is also a savable because it's a subclass of user. So again, admin has a toDict. So when we say some admin object dot save, it'll call admin's toDict. If we have some user object and we call save, it'll call the user's toDict, which doesn't exist, so we have to implement it. So just like that. Now the user has a toDict, admin has a toDict which overrides it, and they both can be saved by using the savable class. From now onwards, you can refer to savable as an interface. Oh, and by the way, sorry, I forgot to define this meta class there. This is important, of course, otherwise it doesn't make much sense. Python won't be able to understand what's going on. So savable here is a superclass because it's an abstract class. You can see it's a class here. In many other programming languages, this would be known as an interface because it defines the functionality that should be in a subclass. That's what an interface is. An interface is not a class that you can instantiate. It is a thing in programming that defines what a subclass must do. So in those terms, adhering to that definition, this is an interface. But because it has this save method that is actually implemented, we can't say that this is an interface in the traditional sense. However, I quite like these quote-unquote Python interfaces. I like them because you can define them as interfaces, just say subclasses must implement the toDict method. And you can also add some functionality that is shared amongst the subclasses, like the save method. In Java, for example, you can define interfaces as something that is separate from classes, completely different things. So you can define in Java things like these. The subclass must implement this method. But in Java, you cannot define, or at least you couldn't when I did Java a long time ago, you couldn't define the save method. You couldn't say the subclass will be able to do this as well and implement it. So pretty useful in Python that these interfaces can have both definitions of what the subclass must be able to do, must implement, and also provide some functionality that will be shared among subclasses. And this is what an interface is in Python. It's as close as you're going to get. You don't have defined interfaces like in other languages, like in Java, but you do have abstract methods and ABCs, which allow you to force subclasses to implement particular things. And then, of course, if we go into app and you have some users, you'll have to import user, of course. You can then naturally have a list of users and then save them all like that. This is perfectly fine because each user is a subclass or implements the savable interface. Because they all implement the interface, you know that they're all going to have this save method there. If you're not sure when you're going to use this, don't worry. The purpose of me teaching you about these advanced concepts in object-oriented programming is not so you'll immediately get some ideas on what to do with them. But as you develop more, maybe when you get a job doing Python development, or maybe if you already have a job and you're working more and more with Python, you will find yourself in a situation where this will be the perfect thing to use. And knowing about it is going to let you design programs much better. Of course, try it, give it a go, write the code, download the code that I've made available in this section, and play around with it so that you do internalize it. Otherwise, a few months down the line, you will have forgotten that this exists. And if you do encounter a situation where you'll need this, you won't remember. So make sure to play around with it and give it a go. And I'll see you in the very next video where we're going to talk about something else. I'll see you there.